On today's episode, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is learning to speak a new language. I'll be sharing some of my personal experiences in my own journey on learning new languages. I also will be sharing some tips on how you too can learn a new language and how speaking a foreign language can help you in your entrepreneurial journey. So stick around. This episode is brought to you by Video Marketing for Creators, my very own course where I show you how to put together a plan and a strategy that will help you share your message and give you the confidence you need to show up on video and press record. Visit focusandbloomstudios.com, learn video to get started. That's focusandbloomstudios.com/learn video. Hola creators, I'm Yesenia Bocanegra, founder of Focus and Bloom Studios. I'm a photographer turned marketing strategist who took a leap of faith, moved over 3,000 miles away from home with one camera and one heavy suitcase filled with dreams. If you're a creative soul and dream maker, this podcast is for you. Here I share actionable tips and tactics on marketing, business, and mindset to help you grow and up-level your business with purpose and lots of joy, one action item at a time. Get comfortable and let's get started. This is the Focus and Bloom Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Focus and Bloom Podcast. I'm your host, Yesenia. In this podcast, we share a variety of tips, tactics, and candid conversations with a variety of industry experts in which you can learn how you can up-level and grow your business one action item at a time with purpose and joy. So again, if this is the first time you're here, consider subscribing. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is learning to speak new languages. So let me just say that I am from Puerto Rico, so my mother tongue is Spanish, but I was born and bred speaking both languages, English and Spanish, because my dad is from the States, and while I was born and bred in Puerto Rico, I learned to speak both languages at the same time. So I know that that is not the case for everybody. So let me go ahead and dive in a little bit of the background of why I suddenly wanted to learn more languages and then how that then led me to a variety of personal and professional experiences that really have been amazing and one of a kind. So a little bit of the backstory on that. I was probably maybe 7 or just young, and I was cleaning my encyclopedia bookshelf. So if that gives you an idea of when this was, so just, Google did not exist at the time. So I was cleaning the books and I came up with this 7-language dictionary. And I was looking through it and I saw a variety of languages. I remember there was Spanish, English, French, Italian. I can't remember the others, but there were 7 languages. And as I'm cleaning, just looking through the pages, I was thinking to myself, why is there a 7-language dictionary? And my answer was, well, I guess that if there is a 7-language dictionary, there must be somebody in this universe that speaks 7 languages. And I decided that person should be me. So I decided that at some point in history, I was going to speak 7 languages. Granted, currently I do not speak 7 languages yet, but I am closer to that goal. And that's really what really drove me into wanting to speak a new language. It's kind of silly, but it is the story. However, I did not study any new foreign language until I was in college. Now, let me say, I am from Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, my mother tongue is Spanish. However, I do speak English, and I was born and bred speaking these 2 languages. The reason is that my father is from the States, but even while we were living in Puerto Rico, he would always, and to this day, speak to us in English. So while I was living and talking and breathing Spanish in my day to day, at home, I had both languages. So I was exposed to this first, second language. And that's why I think learning languages to me has become a very easy thing to do. But that doesn't mean that if you were only raised with just exposed to one language, that doesn't mean that you cannot learn multiple languages. I'll be sharing a little bit of how my mindset works in regards to learning to speak a new language. So even though I have been raised speaking 2 languages, my new language learning journey really didn't start until my second year in college. And this is where it all began, really. So I was in my first or second year in college, and I decided that I wanted to learn to speak a new language, and that one ended up being French. And once I started that, although I did start with just me learning self-taught, I would really felt this connection with this language. And I said, well, I really like this language and I do not want to forget it. So I want to make sure that I'll do my best to learn it really well as to not forget it later on, because it is easy for you to forget a language that you haven't really practiced or spoken to or been exposed to in a long time. Again, you need to listen to those similar sounds so that you can associate a sound with a meaning with something. So if let's say you went to high school and you took French or you took Spanish, and it's been 15 years later and you cannot remember basic of Spanish or French or whatever language you took, don't feel bad about it. If you haven't been exposed to the language, that's one of the reasons why you probably don't remember. But probably if you go to a country or if you visit or if you listen to something in that particular language, you might start recognizing certain sounds and certain words. So, my first language learning experience was really more on the DIY side. And I did this by going online pretty often and trying to find as many resources as possible that will help me learn French, which was my first new language. Now, I did this for about 6 months, and it helped in a way because I had really been more exposed to the written part of French, and was able to see certain words and know a little bit how they were pronounced, but really what they meant. So that helped me a little bit in this journey. I went online when online chat rooms were a thing, and I would have my chat room, my Alta Vista translator, and then I even had a vocabulary workbook that I made myself, and a Spanish French dictionary. So, this is the first thing. This is my DIY approach to French immersion. It worked okay, but I still had loads to learn. It wasn't until maybe like 6, 8 months later that I enrolled in my first French 101 class at the university. And this was the beginning of so many cool things. I had a really cool professor, and she was really immersive from the very beginning. So, in other words, when you entered that room, everything you spoke was in French, even if you had no idea. And she had written words on the blackboard where they would help you navigate certain questions like, how do you say this, or how do you say that, or asking for things. So we were very much immersed from day one, and I think that's one of the key things when it comes to language learning. You really should immerse yourself as much as possible, because you're forcing your mind to think in that language. And that's the second thing. If you're learning a new language, immerse yourself as much as possible so that you can listen to that language and listen to those sounds, and start to make sense of those sounds. So I started to, I started learning or taking this class, and we had a workbook and everything. And it wasn't until 6 months later that I went to France for the first time. So this was exciting, and you can probably see my level of excitement because as I'm saying this, I'm reliving my experience in France for the first time, just being in Paris. Even if it was for like 15 hours, I would totally do it again. Anyways, it was my first time in France. And at this time, I still wasn't quite fluent, but I was able to read certain words, and I had a really, really terrible accent, but I was able to immerse myself a little bit, even if it was just for a couple of hours in that particular culture and that language. I grabbed a lot of magazines, newspapers, and I would ask my friends of if they had any recommendations. And by friends, I mean the people that I would know, but I would meet online that were French. And I would ask them for recommendations for songs and books and things like that, so I can just immerse myself as much as possible. So at this point in time, the availability of resources is by far not as much as you can find today, but it's still, I made it work. So that's one other thing. But let me go ahead and walk you through, a little bit of the thought process of actually learning to speak a new language. So first things first, you want to pick a language that makes sense to you. What does this mean? This language could be that it is a language that is spoken in your community. Maybe it's a language that you are in contact or in communication or in business with. Let's say you are working for a corporation or a business or even yourself. Let's say you find yourself doing business with a particular country or with a particular community that speaks XYZ language, then maybe that could be your target language. So in Puerto Rico, the best target language that you could learn as obviously in addition to Spanish, which is the mother tongue, is English because of the close relationship we have in Puerto Rico with the United States being a US territory. So that makes sense. But maybe if you are in a different area of the United States, let's say, and you probably interact with a lot of Spanish speaking people, then maybe Spanish could be your target language. But, don't limit yourself to that. That's just a way to see it so that it makes sense to you and it motivates you to learn this particular new language. But maybe in your environment probably might recommend for you to learn to speak French or Spanish, for example, but you don't really feel interest in either of those languages. You want to learn Japanese. Then perfect. Either way, it has to be a language that excites you and it makes sense for you to learn. By now, you've heard that video is a key tool to help connect, grow, and scale your business. If you're unsure of where to start, you'll want to check out Video Marketing for Creators. In this course, you'll learn the technical side of how to produce professional looking videos with minimal gear while learning how to put together a plan and a strategy that will help you share your message and give you the confidence you need to show up on video and press record. Visit focusandbloomstudios.com/learnvideo to get started. That's focusandbloomstudios.com/learnvideo. Now let's get back to the show. The next thing is to dedicate at least 20 to 30 minutes a day to practice. And this could be listening to music in your target language, reading something in particular in that language, completing an assignment on a language learning app. By the way, my favorite is Babbel Language, and this is an unpaid commercial. I've used several applications, and I think Babbel Language has a really good grammatical structure in approach to teaching new languages, and that's why I recommend it. And also, I think it's probably because it makes sense to how my language learning experience in college was. So it has that similar approach to that experience that I had in college. So that's why I recommend it. It's really great. It's very affordable too. So, and they have a lot of languages. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm not been paid for this. Practice, practice, practice. 20, 30 minutes. You can do this while you're driving to work, while you're cleaning, while you're in the shower, while you're getting ready in the morning. You have 20 minutes somewhere along the lines. And it doesn't have to be very involved. Like, for example, maybe you have a short commute to work, then that's where you're gonna go and plug in some music, maybe and just start to get immersed in that language, whether that is listening to music, listening to a podcast, listening to or watching a movie or reading anything. Just 20 to 30 minutes a day if you can. But I think you can totally do it if you can. Immersion is one of the key things to help you learn a new language. So do it as much as possible. The next one is, and this is very much a visual thing. So visualize the inside, and it might sound weird, but visualize the inside of your mouth as you are speaking each word in that new language. And even in your own, actually. Think about it. Take a moment to read something in your native language. And then try to picture how the inside of your mouth looks. Where does the tongue touch in the mouth and how the sounds are coming out? For example, the letter R, it's pronounced very differently in Spanish and English and French. And I'll use these three as an example. For example, the word red. So red, you're listening to the word red. So it's a little bit of a softer R. In Spanish, red is rojo. So it's more, you're rolling the R's and it's coming from the front of the mouth. And then in French is rouge. So now the sound is coming from the back of your mouth, so all around your throat. So red, red, rojo, rouge. See how they all sound, it's the same letter, same, I'm just translating the word, but same letter, and it sounds very different. Just think about it and try to visualize in your mother tongue. And then as you're learning the new language, do the same, do that same visualization, and then that's going to help you with your pronunciation. A good way to put this into practice is to listen to music. I love music, and I think music is very helpful when it comes to learning things. So, one thing that I would do when I was starting to learn a language, or specifically French, I would look for the lyrics to the songs that I liked. I would print them out and I would circle each word that I did not know, and then I would write them on my vocabulary book. Then I would repeat the song and memorize it to the point where I could actually say the words. And then now I have a bunch of new words that I knew, that I learned. And then when I would listen to another song or watch another movie or show, I would start making sense of what they're saying. But music is such a powerful tool. So I highly recommend it and highly encourage you to try it as well. You can also watch movies or watch TV shows and put the subtitles or put the dubbed version of that particular language. Either way works really well as a way for you to immerse yourself and be exposed to that particular language. What I would recommend is try putting it in the target language, the audio in the target language. So maybe it's a dub version of that show or that movie, and then have the English or your main language in the subtitles. And this way you're starting to listen to sounds and then reading what it means. I know subtitles can be a little bit annoying at times, but it is helpful, and it's going to help you understand or connect certain sounds with the meaning of what's happening. Another thing that I did very soon or very early in my journey is part of that immersion, and it's to change all of my technology into the target language. So I would change my phone, my computer, my keyboard, everything. As much as I could change into the new language, I would do that. And that, you'll be amazed of all of the little words that you would learn just by doing this quick search. If you don't feel like it, that's perfectly fine. Maybe you can have it every now and then and change it. But trust me, you're going to learn a couple of words just by doing that. The next thing to do to expand this immersion and this language learning experience is to make a plan to visit a country that speaks that particular language. And I know that things are still a little bit in this transition as we're slightly moving away from this pandemic. There's still lots to go about, and there are some restrictions in certain places, but as possible, try to make a plan to travel as much as you can, or even if it's just one time, so that you can experience that particular country. Last but not least, practice, practice, practice. Go ahead and practice and immerse yourself as much as possible in that new language, and don't be afraid to make a mistake. It's okay. We all make mistakes in our own mother tongue. So it's okay. You will see that by learning new languages, you will get new opportunities in life. And I cannot tell you all the doors that I've had that have opened just because I know how to speak a different language. And if you're curious to know which languages I speak, I obviously fluent in Spanish, in English, in French, Italian. I can get away with Portuguese, and I know how to ask where are things in German, and I just say hello in Arabic. So I still haven't met that 7 language quota, but I'm getting closer. It is a fun experience. And when you get to travel to these countries that speak these different languages, you feel that your travel experience is just significantly richer. I hope you found these tips helpful, and I would love to know, what new language are you currently learning or are you planning on learning? Go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram at Focus and Bloom Studios, or you can comment on this post if you're watching on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, whether it is you're watching on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. I'll see you on the next time. Take care.